Am I the asshole for not wanting my mother-in-law to take care of my baby after she tried to breastfeed him?
Oh my gosh. Is that, okay, before I get yelled at, is that like a thing? You don't do that, right? You can't just breastfeed other people's babies. But what if you're both lactating?
Different.
You can't, right? Because it's
You
different.
can.
You can.
Yeah, like that's like if you look at olden times, they had wet nurses.
Yes, I know.
So royalty wouldn't feed their own children.
That's actually has like kind of like racial implications because a lot of like black
Women of color. Yeah.
more so black women at the time, I think. Actually, maybe it was.
I think it depends
hear
on the
more
culture.
about it, yeah.
I think in colonial America, I think enslaved individuals would oftentimes be used as wet nurses. But I think in like English courts, I think it was like it was other individuals.
Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, it was typically lower income enslaved individuals. Like it's just it's a crazy concept.
So that's not a dumb question. You can do that.
Well, even like and I don't even today in modern times, like I have a friend that just had a little one and she wasn't really able to produce enough milk. So she used donated milk. But your mother-in-law.
Who clearly very much so is probably not lactating.
No.
Oof, that is so uncomfortable. What did she do?
So OP writes, my husband and I both work full-time and we have a 2-month-old. My mother-in-law comes to our house every weekday and watches him for free while we work. We're on week 3 of this arrangement since I went back to work after maternity leave. It's very kind of her to do this for us, and I appreciate it immensely. My baby is breastfed. I pump milk for her to give to him during the day, and he gets milk right from the source on evenings and weekends. He loves nursing, and I do too. It's been a wonderful way for us to bond and a beautiful experience overall. Yesterday, while I was at work, I opened the baby monitor app on my phone to check and see if my mother-in-law was able to get him to take a nap in his crib. She had been texting me saying he was crying really hard, so she was thinking about just holding him for a nap. So I wanted to check and see if he was okay and if she ended up just holding him. When I looked at the camera, mother-in-law was holding him and she had her shirt up and he was latched onto her breast.
Oh my gosh.
I was shocked and horrified. I called her right away and she didn't answer. So I had to sit there and watch her attempt to breastfeed my baby. He was latched on, but obviously not getting any milk as my mother-in-law is not lactating. I called my husband at work, who eventually got a hold of her. Apparently the baby was crying so hard, and that was the only thing she could think of to calm him down enough to sleep.
Don't they have pacifiers for that?
Yeah.
Or like another sucking mechanism? Like those little, I've seen those little passies that look just like nipples.
Yeah, they have those. And also like if he's crying super hard, like I get some babies just cannot be calmed.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what's going on? Maybe he's colicky. Who fucking knows? But the fact that she wouldn't just keep trying for a bottle, rock him, maybe put him in the car seat, take him for a little drive, put him in a buggy, go for a walk. Like your thought when he's crying and you can't console him is to fucking put him on your breast.
I mean, I don't see it as like insane in thought, but it's one of those things that you like, it's a thought and you just leave it at that. You're like, that's an idea, but that's crazy. And you don't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
If you're like, if it's like fucking Meet the Fockers, where the guy had like a fake breast suit and put the bottle in the suit.
Sure.
That's a different story.
Sure.
But to pull up your shirt and have your grandchild suck on your boob.
Oh, no, I'm uncomfy. And I have nothing wrong with breastfeeding at all. But this is like inappropriate. It's crossing a line.
Out of the world inappropriate. Like I just don't understand how this was her like conclusion.
Yeah. Like I said, I see how it could be a thought where you're like, oh, it's one of those thoughts where like that sounded better than it was.
An intrusive thought even.
An intrusive thought. But you gotta dismiss it and you don't do it. Or let me add this. You call the mother and you say, hey, I have this like crazy idea. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm just like super desperate. What do you think about this plan? And then the mother would probably be like, absolutely not. Don't do that ever. But thanks so much for running that by me. Stick a pin in that one and never take out the pin. But you know what I mean?
Stick a pin. Yeah, exactly.
That's one of those things. Like, you don't just do it. That's crazy.
At the end of the day, it's not your baby.
No. At the end of the day, it's not your baby.
Follow the instructions.
Yes. Stick to the plan. Okay. That's inappropriate. So they asked, who's asking if they're an asshole?
The wife.
For being mad?
So she goes on to say, she breastfed all 4 of her children when they were babies, and it always calmed them down enough to sleep. She was mad that I had checked the camera and told him, and it was an invasion of privacy. I don't want her watching my baby anymore. We can't afford a nanny or daycare. When I told my mother-in-law this, she freaked out and said I was being a bitch, and she was just trying to calm the baby down, and it wasn't a big deal. She says I'm taking her grandchild away from her and being unfair. My husband understands why I'm upset, but wants to give her another chance to watch the baby. He also doesn't want to spend the money to get a nanny or do daycare when she can watch our baby for free. Am I being unreasonable here? I'm so upset with her and just completely baffled at why she would do this, that I never even want to see her again, let alone have her anywhere near my baby. I think I could possibly be the asshole for checking up on her, though, through the camera, and also for not wanting her to watch my baby anymore, even though that would mean spending extra money and taking away something she really seems to enjoy doing. Am I the asshole?
What do you think?
No, I can't imagine, like, it's very inappropriate, and I can't imagine trusting her to not try this again. And it's like, when you're at work, you want to be comfortable knowing your kid is in, the proper care. You don't want to be having to constantly check the cameras again to make sure she's not fucking trying to breastfeed your kid.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, no, not the asshole. Like, it's your kid, it's your rules. It's what you're comfortable with as a parent. So, no.
I agree with that. It is your rules as a parent. As a non-parent, I don't really know, what someone is comfortable with. But what I don't know. Here's my thought is I think she is worth a second shot if this is the one and only offense, because the way I see it is I'm assuming that your mother-in-law has never had any other instances like this with you and that this is like a blip, And I think there should be an agreement moving forward that you're allowed to check the camera at the end of the day.
Whenever I want.
Yeah, the camera's there for the baby safety, not to check up on anybody. So I don't think she's the asshole at all for checking the camera. That's not an invasion of privacy. The camera, I'm assuming, is in your home to check on your baby. It's there for a reason. You checked on your baby. Some women really struggle with like postpartum and being apart from their child at work and going back after maternity leave. I've heard can be really stressful.
It can be.
And so checking in on your baby, if it brings you a little bit of relief and comfort, I think more power to you. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And the mother-in-law is out of line for trying to gaslight her for that.
That's what I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I think, okay, second chance, redeemable, okay.
Sure.
But the fact that she immediately got so defensive and was like, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
You're a bitch for keeping me away from my grandchild versus just being like, you know what? I was wrong. I will never do this again.
I agree.
I like that to me is where I'm like,
I completely agree. I'm also just like, I know people say really crazy things when they feel really hurt.
Yeah.
And kind of like what I was saying earlier, some people really die for their grandbabies. So this might have been like a mama bear thing where I know she's not the mother, she's the grandmother, but it was like she felt threatened and she was just like
backed into a corner kind of vibe.
Yeah. And the reason I think she's worth another shot too is I'm such like a cost benefit analysis person. So I look at it this way, like
free childcare.
No, not for childcare. Well, in a sense, yes. But if your mother-in-law is generally trustworthy and somebody that you think has good integrity and knows how to be a good caretaker to your child, and she had one lapse in judgment, you're taking a risk by putting your child in somebody else's hands. Childcare people, you don't know them.
Yeah, they're not family.
No, they're trained professionals. Sure, they passed a background check, maybe. But you don't know that they're not going to do questionable practices that you as a mother wouldn't want for your child. So the way I see it is it's a gamble that way too. You're not ensured that this new babysitter, I just found out about a story. My cousin, when he was a baby, in Peru, a lot of people have like live-in, this is a bad word, but like maids, they call them. So like women who take care of the children, clean, cook. That's just kind of a norm in Peru for the middle class and upper class. I'm not sure why. Like
it's a cultural thing.
It's all I've known when I go to Peru. So my family was, had those live-in like people who helped with the children. So my aunt went to work one day, left her baby. It was a newer like nanny. And my other aunt had stopped by for something. So the nanny didn't know she was coming by. And she kind of heard the baby crying. So she stood outside to see what happened. And the baby was crying really loud. And she hears the nanny like swear and say like, shut the fuck up or something. And she hears a slap sound. and then she hears silence, and then she hears the baby burst out into like a pain cry.
Oh my God.
It's like a harder cry.
Yeah.
So she walks in and sees a handprint, like a 5-star on the baby's leg. And so, yeah. So my point to say that story was if she had never come home, she would have never known that her, nephew was being abused by the nanny, and she came home, fired the nanny, whatever. So I say this as you don't know, you can't
It's
always
better to have
trust.
family who you do actually know.
Yes. So I'm saying, yeah, she made a mistake. She didn't react great, but I think it's worth another chance with the understanding, mutual understanding that you will and can check those cameras. And that the mother-in-law,
I would say that too. Like
that's my
I'm going to
view.
be checking the cameras. So.
Yeah, I'm going to be checking the cameras. If that's a problem, it's a non-starter for me.
There you go.
I also I'm not really sure what their alternative is because they can't afford childcare.
They can.
Oh, they can.
They can afford a nanny or childcare. So she's like, that's what she wants to do.
Okay, got it.
She's like, I would way rather do that.
Okay.
But still, your point is so valid.
Give her a shot, and then if there's any other red flag or any discomfort, go get your nanny.
I think I wouldn't pursue her watching the kid again immediately. I think I would let some time pass. And then maybe once the kid is...
You want to give her a timeout.
I want to give her a timeout.
Yeah.
Really learn what you did was wrong. And then maybe once the kid is a little older and more easily soothed, then there's no reason to stick him on your boob again.
Yeah.
Like
true. Yeah, maybe it's worth saying like, hey, I just want to get him out of the breastfeeding period. And then we don't have to worry about that. And you don't have to stress out about it. Kind of make it like a mutual thing. And then re-invite her to watch the child.
Exactly.
You just don't know how turbulent it's going to be. You know?
I know. The mother-in-law dynamic is very, very complicated, especially with children.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research on this one where as a woman, we are obviously more close with our mothers and more trusting of our mothers to watch our children than our husbands or our partners' mothers. So there's what's called the like the matriarchal benefit. And it's something that like my brother and his wife are very open with like family and watching their kids. Like that's one thing they've really, really done a good job with. They're like, we only really want family watching our kids. So we know who's taking care of them.
Yeah.
But I think there are times where my mom has been kind of like, I just feel excluded. Like, why didn't they ask me? Or like things like that. And it's like, it's just different when your son has a child versus if you have a daughter and your daughter has a child.
I agree. I mean,
like the son here is kind of in this like, oh, let's give her another shot. Like it's no big deal.
True. But then again, I'm over here like, she didn't,
I know.
But that's an interesting point. And one thing I've thought about too, just personally, because, we live in Los Angeles, being like, I don't have that luxury of, I'm just going to pop over to my mom's house and like drop off my child.
Oh, I know.
And I think that can't be understated. Like that's such a luxury to have that.
Such a luxury.
For not only just financial reasons, but there's something
just comfort, peace of mind.
Comfort.
So top comment on this one. Not the asshole. No normal human tries to breastfeed a child they are entrusted to look after. This is not healthy/sane behavior. I would be concerned that she has other issues. Her reaction is telling as well. Again, a normal human would be supremely embarrassed and apologize. She may be lashing out because she's embarrassed, but it's not acceptable for her to swear at you or gasp, be incensed that you used the baby monitor for its intended purpose.
Exactly. I agree with her reaction. It was out of line. When I think about, it's hard because we're getting a glimpse of like the mother-in-law's like fuck up and not the mother-in-law as a person.
Yeah.
If we were all judged on one instance where we felt embarrassed, we'd seem like shitty humans.
For sure. I just think like, obviously you don't have to cut her off for this.
No.
But like, if your boundary is her not watching your kid, like, I do think it's pretty
if that's
fair.
really what you think, sure, go ahead. But
this comment too includes an edit that's kind of relevant to what we've said. I'm including responses I've written to some of the but wet nursing crowd because I'm not talking about wet nursing or mutually agreed on co-nursing. Those things are not relevant to OP's culture or community. It is bizarre that people are pointing out trends and practices that do not apply to this OP and her mother-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. There was no mention of any arrangement.
And she would have. And plus, it's her mother-in-law. It's not like a friend that's also got a baby.
Yeah.
And you switch off days.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, not the asshole if that's what you decide ultimately.
Next comment after. This is exactly right. Clearly, mother-in-law's judgment cannot be trusted. I wouldn't trust mother-in-law alone with the baby in any capacity, and I definitely wouldn't trust her to provide daycare services. Mother-in-law crossed a boundary that should have been obvious. And why would she think latching the baby to her breast would calm the baby down? There's no milk. I find this so revolting.
But isn't it the sucking sensation?
Typically, when a baby starts suckling like that, there needs to be a reward. There needs to be milk. Otherwise, they just become more frustrated and more upset.
But that completely defeats the theory behind pacifiers, which
it's
have
different.
Been shown to work.
Pacifiers definitely have been shown to work, but there's a difference between a nipple and a pacifier. Yes, granted, there are some that are shaped very different, but there's something to be said about like the latching and the breast connection. Like there's a lot of physiological things that happen when the baby latches, and that's why a lot of mothers talk about breastfeeding being like this ultimate bonding experience for them and their child.
Yeah.
But no, sucking is a comfort thing, especially
yeah.
if the
So that's why I
don't
don't think it's absolutely ludicrous to think that a baby sucking sensation would not replicate the like latching.
I get that, but then use a pacifier. Like your breast
I agree, but I'm saying this person's getting really like fired up about something that they're assuming. They don't know that the grandma was assuming for the baby to try and get milk.
No, but I still think like there's better options than giving a baby your tit. Like
there are, but like their comment's not saying that.
And why would she think latching the baby to her breast would calm the baby down? There's no milk, which is kind of...
There's no milk.
But
neither would a pacifier.
No, but pacifiers are different than nipples. There's a different experience for a baby latching on a nipple than there is a pacifier.
That's not what I'm not saying that that's not a different experience. I'm just saying it's not crazy to think that it couldn't replicate the experience.
But I think the baby is going to have a nipple in its mouth and get very, very confused and therefore more frustrated.
Got it. Then that's the point to make.
A breast is a breast.
Sure.
A baby's association
is
with
milk.
a boob is milk. It's food. It's life.
Got
it's sustenance.
Okay.
That at this point, the baby's only 2 months old.
Well, that makes sense. But to say, like, that's the part I'm getting like upset over is, okay, but like tell that to all the people who rely on pacifiers, which I personally know of people. So I know I'm not a mother.
A lot of people use pacifiers to soothe their children. But at this stage in the game, the baby's 2 months old. Their association with the breast is food. So when they start suckling on a nipple and it doesn't produce food for them, they're going to get more and more frustrated. Like my brother's wife really struggled with breastfeeding. She wasn't producing. And so it became this frustrating experience for her where she wasn't producing. The baby was trying to latch and get milk, and the baby was becoming more and more upset, crying more, and it was a really hard experience for both of them.
Right.
So a baby's association at this point is breast, food.
Got it.
It's not going to calm the baby down. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like again, if you think the baby's hungry and that's why they're upset, bottle.
Sure.
Suck, you want to suck, have the baby suck on something to calm them down, pacifier. But like, I think the comment, like both of these are really trying to point out, like no sane person would be like, oh, here's my tit. You would never.
I don't know. I think that's
you would never pull out your tit.
I wouldn't. I don't even know if I want to have a kid, so I cannot picture feeding a non-existent child. But I'm just saying, like, I think that's a little, like, to call the person insane. I don't know. I'm not a mother, so I can't put myself there. But to call the person insane, I think is like a reach. Like, especially when your child is crying, people do really desperate things to soothe a crying baby.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, overly exhausted parents, shaken baby syndrome. And these kids end up dead when people go crazy.
That's what I mean. So, like, I'm not, listen, I want to make very clear. I am not in any way saying, right on, grandma, you did the right thing. What I'm saying is to call her insane and say there's other things wrong with her is a little bit of a reach, in my opinion, based off of this situation. I don't think, like, that's insane. Like, you're desperate. You're trying to soothe this child. Yes. Was that the right move? No, clearly not. The science you just pointed out, factual, impressive, great. That's what all mothers should know. But in that moment, I don't think she was sitting there and thinking about that. I think she was just like, I want to soothe this child. It probably wants a nipple. Like, here you go. Like, do I think that's the right move? No. But do I think that's like, holy shit, you Ted Bundy, lock her up? Like, no.
I just think don't have her watch your kids.
Sure.
Like, in my head, no rational person who is like a responsible babysitter would ever make another baby that isn't theirs suck on their boob.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with this one.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, lady?
Right.